The 7-day separation that backfired. I was watching my wife pack her bags at 11 p.m., tears streaming down her face, when she finally understood what trial separation actually meant. What had started as her casual suggestion to live apart for a week to gain perspective had just turned into me filing actual separation papers and her realizing she might lose our $800,000 house, her car, and half our assets. But this story starts 3 days earlier when she dropped the bomb that nearly ended our marriage. "I think we should try living separately for a week," she announced over dinner, as casually as if she was suggesting we try a new restaurant. The fork stopped halfway to my mouth. "What? Just for 7 days? My therapist says it's a healthy exercise. We'll still be married, just living separate lives to see if we really appreciate each other." If you're into honest stories about relationships, trust, and betrayal, hit that follow button. You won't want to miss the next one. I stared at this woman I'd been married to for 8 years. The woman I worked 60-hour weeks to support while she pursued her art career that had netted exactly $0 in 3 years. The woman whose credit card bills I paid, whose student loans I'd helped eliminate, whose dream of opening a boutique I'd funded with my inheritance money. And now she wanted to try living separately to see if we appreciated each other. "Where did this come from?" I asked, setting my fork down carefully. "I've been thinking about us lately, about whether we're together because we love each other or just because we're comfortable. Sarah went through this with her husband last month, and it really helped their relationship." Sarah, her recently divorced friend who'd been filling her head with ideas about rediscovering herself and not settling for less than passion. "And if we don't appreciate each other more after this week," she shrugged, "then we'll know where we stand." The casual way she said it, like our 8-year marriage was some kind of experiment she could pause and resume, at will lit a fire in my chest. But I kept my voice level. "If that's what you want, I'll respect your decision." The shock on her face was immediate. She'd expected me to argue, to beg, to fight for us. Instead, I calmly finished my dinner while she sat there, clearly thrown off by my acceptance. "Are you upset?" she asked. "You've made your choice. I'm making mine about how to handle it." That night, I slept in the guest room without another word. But I wasn't sleeping, I was planning. The next morning, while she was still asleep, I began implementing what I now call the real separation experience. First stop, my lawyer's office. "She wants to live separately for a week to reassess your marriage?" Attorney Davidson raised an eyebrow. "That's, interesting timing." "Why do you say that?" "Because I just handled a very similar case last month. Wife suggested a trial separation, husband agreed, and it turned out she'd already been apartment hunting with her boyfriend." My blood went cold. "You think she's cheating?" "I think someone who casually suggests dismantling a marriage usually has a reason. Either way, we should protect your interests. In this state, a formal separation can affect asset division if things go south." An hour later, I walked out with temporary separation papers, a plan to protect our joint assets, and a very clear understanding of my legal rights. When I got home, Lisa was in the kitchen, still in her pajamas, looking like she'd been crying. "Where were you?" she asked. "Taking care of business. Since we're living separately now, I thought I should understand what that means legally." Her face went pale. "Legally? This isn't a legal separation. It's just space." "Space from what exactly?" "Our marriage, our home, our shared finances. Because if we're truly living separately, we need to separate everything, right?" I pulled out the paperwork. "I've filed temporary separation documents. Don't worry, they're reversible if we decide to get back together after your experiment." "You filed separation papers?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "You said you wanted to live separate lives. I'm making sure we do it properly." The color drained completely from her face as she realized this wasn't the casual break she'd imagined. "I also spoke with our bank," I continued. "They're freezing our joint accounts until we establish separate living arrangements. You'll need to open your own checking account." "You can't just cut me off from our money." "I'm not cutting you off. I'm protecting both of us during this separation you requested. The lawyer said it's standard procedure." She stared at the papers like they were radioactive. This isn't what I meant. Then what did you mean? Silence. Did you mean you wanted to play house somewhere else while keeping all the benefits of being married to me? Did you mean you wanted freedom without consequences? More silence. Because that's not how separation works, Lisa. When you separate from your spouse, you separate from everything. The shared home, the shared finances, the shared life. All of it. I watched her process this information, watched the reality of her casual suggestions sink in. I need to get ready for work, I said. Your first night of separate living starts tonight. I've packed your things. They're by the door. My things? You can't live separately while staying in our shared home. That would defeat the purpose of your experiment. I'd spent the morning researching short-term rental apartments and found her a furnished studio across town. Prepaid for a week. Her bags were packed, her new keys were on the counter, and her separate life was ready to begin. You're kicking me out? I'm respecting your wishes. You wanted to see what life was like living apart from me. Now you can find out. The panic in her eyes was something I'd never seen before. This was not the empowering break her divorced friend had described. This was real separation with real consequences. I don't want to leave, she whispered. Then you shouldn't have asked to live separately. I picked up my briefcase and headed for the door. Your experiment starts at 6 p.m. tonight. The apartment address is on the counter. Have a good week discovering whether you appreciate what you had. As I walked out, I heard her calling my name, her voice breaking. But I didn't turn around, because this was her test, not mine. And I was going to make sure she experienced exactly what she'd asked for. When I got to work, I did something I'd never done in 8 years of marriage. I deleted all the photos of us from my social media and changed my relationship status to, it's complicated. My phone exploded with notifications from friends and family, but I ignored them all. If Lisa wanted to play games with our marriage, she was going to learn that games have consequences. Around noon, I got the first text from her. Please don't make me leave tonight. Can we just talk about this? I didn't respond. An hour later, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Can we please forget I ever suggested this? Still no response. By 3 p.m., the messages were coming every few minutes. You're being extreme. This isn't what I wanted. My therapist said this was supposed to be a positive experience. Please call me back. I'm scared. At 5:30 p.m., I drove home to find her sitting on the couch, still in her pajamas, surrounded by her packed bags. She'd been crying for hours. I'm not leaving, she said when I walked in. Then this isn't a separation, is it? It's just you threatening to leave while enjoying all the benefits of staying. I pulled out my phone and showed her my social media. I've already informed everyone we're separated. Your family knows, my family knows, all our friends know. The experiment is official. Her face crumpled. You told everyone. You wanted to live separate lives. That includes separate social lives, separate family relationships, separate everything. Did you think we could pretend to be happily married in public while playing your separation game in private? She stared at her phone as notifications poured in. Family members asking if she was okay. Friends wanting to know what happened. Her mother demanding an explanation. I have to explain this to everyone, she said in horror. Yes, you do, because this was your idea. At 6 p.m. exactly, I picked up her bags and carried them to the door. Time for your separate life to begin. She followed me sobbing. Please don't make me do this. I was wrong. I see that now. The experiment lasts 7 days. That was your rule. I don't want the experiment anymore. Too late. The papers are filed, the accounts are frozen, and everyone knows we're separated. You can't take back consequences just because you don't like them. I loaded her bags into her car. Your apartment is nice, fully furnished. You'll have a week to really think about whether you appreciate what you had here. As she sat in her car, crying too hard to start the engine, I felt a mix of satisfaction and sadness. Satisfaction that she was finally experiencing the reality of her casual suggestion. Sadness that it had come to this. 7 days, I said through her window. Then we'll see if you learned what you needed to learn. The first 3 days of Lisa's separate life were enlightening, to say the least. Day 1, she called me 17 times. I didn't answer any of them. Day 2, she showed up at my office. Security escorted her out after she caused a scene in the lobby, demanding that I stop this childish behavior and take her back. Day 3, she enlisted our mutual friends to call and text me, telling me I was being cruel and vindictive and that she'd learned her lesson. But it was day 4 that things got really interesting. I was having dinner at our usual Friday night restaurant alone when I saw her walk in. She wasn't alone. She was with Marcus, a guy from her art class that she'd mentioned a few times over the past months. They were holding hands. Suddenly, everything made sense. The casual suggestion to live separately. The emphasis on seeing if we really appreciate each other. The confidence that this would be a positive experience. She hadn't wanted to test our marriage. She'd wanted permission to explore her options with Marcus while keeping me as a backup plan. I watched them for a moment, noting how comfortable they seemed together, how familiar their interaction was. This wasn't a first date. This was a relationship that had been developing for a while. Instead of confronting them, I did something that would prove far more effective. I took out my phone and recorded a short video of them together, making sure to capture their intimate body language and obvious familiarity. Then I sent it to her parents, her sister, and 3 of our closest mutual friends with a simple message. Looks like Lisa's separation experiment is going well. Now I understand why she needed space. My phone didn't ring for the rest of the evening, but I knew the storm was coming. The next morning, I woke to find Lisa sitting on my front porch at 6 a.m., still wearing the dress from her date, mascara streaked down her face. "You ruined everything," she said when she saw me. "Did I? Or did I just document what you were already doing?" Marcus and I, it's not what it looks like. I sat down beside her on the porch steps. "What does it look like?" She was quiet for a long moment. "It looks like I was cheating on my husband while pretending to need space to think." "And is that what was happening?" More silence. "How long?" I asked. 3 months, she whispered. 3 months. While I was working overtime to pay for her art supplies and studio space, she was developing a relationship with another man. While I was planning our anniversary dinner, she was planning how to transition from me to him without losing financial security. The separation idea was his, wasn't it? She nodded miserably. He said it would be easier if we could be together openly for a week, see how it felt, and then I could make a clean break if I wanted to. A clean break, meaning divorce. I thought maybe I could try both. See what it was like with him, and if it didn't work out, come back to you. The casual cruelty of it was breathtaking. I was her safety net, her fallback option, her financial security blanket while she test drove her upgrade. And now everyone knows what I did. My parents won't speak to me. My sister called me a fool. Our friends think I'm a terrible person. And Marcus, she started crying again. Marcus said this is too much drama. He doesn't want to be involved in my divorce. So Marcus was fine with being a secret affair partner, but couldn't handle being exposed as a marriage wrecker. How predictable. I lost everything, she sobbed. And for what? For someone who disappeared the moment things got complicated. I looked at this woman I'd married, supported and trusted for 8 years. The woman who'd repaid my loyalty by treating our marriage like a casual arrangement. She could pause and resume at will. "What do you want from me, Lisa?" "I want to come home. I want to end this separation and work on our marriage. I'll do counseling. I'll do whatever you want. I just want to fix this." "Why? Because Marcus didn't work out?" She flinched. "Because I realized what I had with you." "No, you realize what you lost with me. There's a difference." I stood up, looking down at her. "The separation continues for the full 7 days. That was your rule. But everything's different now. Everyone knows about Marcus. There's no point in continuing this charade. It's not a charade. It's the natural consequence of your choices. You wanted to see what life was like without me. Now you know." Her phone buzzed with another notification, probably another family member or friend expressing their disappointment. She'd successfully burned bridges with everyone who mattered while chasing someone who disappeared at the first sign of trouble. 3 more days, I said. Use them to think about whether you really understand what you did and why it matters. And then what? Will you take me back? I looked at her sitting on the porch in yesterday's clothes, surrounded by the wreckage of her own making. I don't know yet. The final 3 days of Lisa's experiment were perhaps the most educational of all. Day 5. She spent the entire day calling and texting apologies, promises, and increasingly desperate pleas to end the separation early. I maintained radio silence. Day 6. Her mother called me, not to yell at me or demand I take Lisa back, but to apologize for her daughter's behavior and to tell me she understood why I was doing what I was doing. She made her bed, her mother said sadly. She needs to lie in it for a while and think about what marriage actually means. Day 7. Lisa showed up at my door at exactly 6 p.m., the moment her week of separation officially ended. But she wasn't alone. She was with a moving truck. I know I don't deserve another chance, she said before I could speak. I know I betrayed your trust in the worst possible way. I know I treated our marriage like it was disposable, she gestured to the truck. I've moved out. For real this time. Not because you're making me, but because it's what I should have done from the beginning if I was really questioning our marriage. This wasn't what I'd expected. I'd thought she'd come begging to move back in, to pretend the whole thing never happened. I'm going to stay with my sister for a while, she continued. I'm going to get individual therapy to figure out why I sabotaged the best thing in my life, and I'm going to give you space to decide if you can ever trust me again. She pulled an envelope from her purse. These are divorce papers, already signed. If you want to end this, you don't have to fight for it or prove fault. I've admitted everything to my lawyer. You'll get everything, the house, the savings, the investments, all of it. I stared at the envelope. And if I don't want a divorce, then I'll spend however long it takes proving that I understand what I did wrong and that I'll never take you for granted again. But I won't pressure you, and I won't make you feel guilty for not trusting me. She stepped back toward the truck. Thank you for giving me exactly what I asked for. I learned what I needed to learn, just not the way I expected to. As the truck pulled away, I stood in my doorway, holding divorce papers signed by a wife who'd finally understood the consequences of treating marriage like an experiment. The irony wasn't lost on me. She'd wanted space to appreciate what she had. I'd given her space to realize what she'd lost. 2 months later, I still haven't signed the divorce papers. Not because I've forgiven her. Trust like that doesn't rebuild quickly. But because I haven't decided yet whether the woman who came to my door that final night was the real Lisa or just another version designed to get what she wanted. She's kept her word about the space. No calls, no texts, no surprise visits, just a weekly email update on her therapy progress and a standing invitation to couples counseling whenever I'm ready. Her sister tells me Lisa's working 2 jobs now to afford rent and therapy, that she cries herself to sleep most nights, that she talks constantly about how she destroyed the only stable relationship she'd ever had for a fantasy that evaporated the moment reality hit. Part of me feels sorry for her. Part of me thinks this is exactly what she needed to experience to understand the value of commitment. But the biggest part of me is still angry. Not at the affair as devastating as that was, but at the casual way she'd suggested dismantling our marriage like it was a piece of furniture we could rearrange. Let's try living separately for a week to see if we appreciate each other. And well, mission accomplished. She definitely appreciates me now. The question is whether appreciation that comes from loss rather than love is enough to rebuild a marriage on. I'm still deciding. What I do know is this. When someone suggests experimenting with your relationship, they're usually not looking to strengthen it. They're looking for permission to explore their options while keeping you as a backup plan. Lisa wanted to test drive her upgrade while keeping her safety net in place. Instead, she learned that some experiments have permanent consequences, that some tests destroy what they're meant to measure, and that the people you take for granted don't always wait around while you figure out whether they're worth keeping. She asked for space to appreciate me. I gave her space to appreciate what life was like without me. The experiment worked exactly as designed. She just didn't like the results. The divorce papers are still on my kitchen table, signed but not filed. Every morning I look at them over coffee, and every morning I face the same question. Can you really rebuild trust with someone who was willing to throw away your marriage for a test run with someone else? Some days, I think maybe. Other days, I think the signed papers are her final gift to me, the freedom to find someone who won't treat love like a casual experiment. Either way, Lisa learned her lesson. The question now is whether that lesson came too late. Thanks for sticking with this story. If you're dealing with someone who wants to take a break or try separation to see if they appreciate you more, remember this. People who truly appreciate you don't need to lose you to figure that out. Hit that follow button if you want more stories about relationship games that backfired. Next week, I'm sharing the story of a man whose wife told him he was getting too comfortable in their marriage and how he showed her exactly what uncomfortable really looked like. See you in the comments, and remember, when someone suggests experimenting with your relationship, they're usually looking for an exit strategy, not a way back in.